tap into your most original thinking, organize your ideas, and create the opportunities to launch your creative work. Unlocking your world of creativity with best-selling author and brand innovator, Mark Stinson.
Welcome back, everyone, to our podcast, Unlocking Your World of Creativity. Today, our global travels take us to San Francisco, and in the Bay Area, we're talking to Ian Fraser.
Hi, thanks so much for having me, Mark.
Absolutely. And listeners, think about these sort of team-building games, outdoor adventures, trust-building exercises that we've all done to inspire the teamwork and creativity of our teams. But now ask yourself, how do you automate that? First of all, how do you digitize that experience? And then how do you bring in the remote teams, especially over the last couple of years? But I mean, remote work was developing for long before that. But how do you pivot to a digital remote version of these kind of team building games? And Ian, that's what you've really done at your company. Ian is the founder of GoGames, and then the extension of that, WEVE. So tell us about GoGames and the principle behind it and kind of how you developed it.
Sure. So interestingly, I had a dream about it that woke me up in the middle of the night, and I was captivated by it. I was in the dream running around Chinatown with a set of headphones that were giving me instructions, and it was even named the Go Game in the dream. And it was sort of like a scavenger hunt, unlocking clues, and really sort of seeing the magic around me in the city and people and strangers. Anyway, woke up and wrote it down in my notebook that I kept by my bed. Was just really possessed with this idea. And then I told my friend Finn Kelly, who's been my co-founder for 20 years now, and he was a coder and was also possessed by the idea. And we set about building it without really much of a business plan. We wanted to make something that we thought was fun, and we'd sort of take it from there. So we bought a bunch of early, cell phones with antennas, and they were really ugly with these tiny little screens. And Finn figured out how to program in something called WAP, Wireless Access Protocol, how to query the database and tell the phone where to go next. And we kind of found a cool niche doing this for companies who wanted to create an experience for their team and bond and have a good time. So yeah, probably our flagship product we called the Classic Go Game, which was part scavenger hunt and really kind of a creativity workshop where we would task teams with staging these creative interpretive photos or videos, which we also gave them a camera. They had the cell phone and a digital camera. So we spent a lot of time taking out SD cards and putting in new batteries. So we developed a number of other products kind of around that, but really built on the principle of the creative process that teams could do very quickly. So yeah,
I think that's so good. It's worth underscoring maybe for the listeners as we pass by this, that you were creating a creativity workshop. It wasn't just about the game or the technology or, hey, it uses this or it uses that, but, the principles of a good workshop. Yeah. Because I think many of us have been to these outdoor things and it's like, okay, we're going to walk across the log to see what we can do. And okay, that's maybe has its value, but you're really describing something different.
Yeah, we sort of took a little bit of a wink approach. We know you don't really want to be here at the team building event that you would have.
Because I got a lot of work to do.
I know. You're like, I should have played golf. No one would have known that I wasn't even here. So we really wanted to honor that with creating an experience that we would do with our friends on a Saturday, that it was that fun that we would experience it. And so we. That sort of creativity workshop, so teams would do a bunch of different mission types. There'd be the scavenger hunt mission, go find a mural and, figure out a clue. We'd even hire actors to be part of the game. So you didn't know who was in on the game and who wasn't. And they'd have to go convince an actor to give them a password or do all number of fun, crazy things. But probably our favorite challenges were what we call the creative challenges. And these were the photo and video variety, where we would give teams a challenge might read, you have 10 minutes to recreate your favorite childhood video game using only your bodies and anything you can find in your immediate environment. So Lord knows where people were at the time. They might be in a food court at in the bottom of a building, or they'd be in a park. and teams would come up with these like really amazing ideas and execute them, and of course they thought they had created like, you know, a masterpiece, and they were really good. You know, one team would do Pac-Man, where they'd throw a yellow jacket on somebody who was, you know, chasing people around, flapping their arms like the Pac-Man mouth. And little did they know, like another team sent the person with the camera to like the top of a garage to film from above as they
Yes.
all hopped across the street doing Frogger. And then a really funny one was a team once, they had the guy walk out in the middle of the street with kind of a robot walk, and he stopped a car with his hand. The car stops, and he robot walks over to the front door, opens it, pulls the driver out, gets in the car, and drives away. And their game was Grand Theft Auto. So what's really neat, and so they would do several of these throughout the game, and often the first one wasn't that good, but by the second and third ones, they would really execute pretty amazing little videos, and then we would show them at the end. Everybody would vote on which was the most creative. We'd put music on top of it, so the Grand Theft Auto. We would cue up some, you know, Ice Cube. It was just really hilarious. So
This is good stuff.
Fun. That was sort of the kernel of like what we did for,
Yeah,
you know, 18 years.
fun. Well, fast forward a little bit now. We're moving into remote work, and Lord knows, a couple of years ago, we had this thing called the pandemic, which still affects our work and our work environment. How did you translate this into, I love the description, you have digital environments with real engagement. That must have been a real challenge.
It was, and we were really fortunate to have been working on a prototype of a video conferencing game show. We really wanted to take the essence of what people were doing out in the park, recreating the video or exploring their environment, and then create that within a video conferencing environment. And we'd heard our clients ask for this even before the pandemic, as more and more companies were embracing dispersed and remote workforces. And we thought it would be kind of a little adjunct to our business, something that might grow over time. And little did we know that the entire ship was going to sink, you know. And right in the beginning of the pandemic, we saw all of our in-person business go just completely to zero, and then this video conferencing game really take off. So what we did was we looked around at other platforms like Zoom and Teams to see if we could develop in that environment. And we didn't really see what we wanted. We wanted there to be more dynamic muting states, to have teams, and you could see who was talking, and teams could collaborate and play Pictionary or do karaoke or do trivia, and you know. And so we set about building it ourselves. And Finn, the guy who coded the original, you know, WAP scavenger hunt, he just did a deep dive in video conferencing and built you know, a prototype that we all just started playing with our clients in April of 2020.
And you built that into a whole separate company or unit called WEVE.
Yep, that's we kind of gave it its own name to kind of differentiate it from the in-person stuff. And so yeah, we called that WEVE, like, you know, weaving a team together, or, you know, running the weave in basketball, if you're an old-fashioned basketball player.
Well, yeah, and at the very least, the first person plural.
Yes.
You know, we are going to do this together.
Yep.
We've played, we've learned.
Yeah, we have some fun, you know, plays on that, like we've got your back, you know.
Yes.
So that's been a really fun kind of just almost like a laboratory of creativity and fun, and we're running up to, you know, 1,000 or 2,000 of these games a month on you know, on our platform. Each game, for the most part, has a live host. So we have about 80 hosts that can jump in and kind of be the facilitator, and kind of almost like the host of the cocktail party that kind of gets the room flowing. But really, the teams kind of take it from there and engage with a bunch of these different game modules. And really, what we tried to bring in was the fun. It's like, this needs to be fun, and that's kind of our secret recipe for everything. It's like, if we don't think it's fun, and they're like, we don't want to do it, it really shouldn't be something we subject other people to do. And then there are a lot of great, you know, takeaways about cooperation and team dynamics and leadership that you can pull out of that. But it's a lot, I think, more impactful when you allow people to pull it out themselves after having a good time, versus telling them like, here's how you here's how you be a good teammate.
Yes,
You actually
exactly.
like play games, and people, it really, that kind of manifests itself right out of the game.
Yeah. Well, I couldn't help but think that you've been living this remote team environment yourself in your own company and with your own colleagues and teammates. And here
Yeah,
now, here we are talking in our respective, home offices, second bedrooms, and everything else,
I know.
as if it's so natural. But 2 years ago, this wasn't the norm.
No,
You
I
you
know.
were right in the same kind of dilemma
Yep,
that
we were.
managers and employees, you were managing your family and everybody's internet use. You
Yeah,
were painting a
yeah,
little bit of picture of that. I think it's worth the
yeah.
audience hearing this story.
It was, yeah. The company was patient zero. Honestly, we had a meeting. I remember everybody grabbed a monitor, and we all just left. And we were like, okay, I'll see you online. We're going to make this product work. And yeah, so we we came. Everybody went home. I actually spent a year of the pandemic working in my Sprinter van in my driveway, while my third grade teacher wife was in the living room with her whiteboard, and then a college student doing her freshman year in her little kids room, and then two other kids doing Zoom school. So it was a quick embrace out of necessity.
Mm-hmm. Not your average ivory tower, do as I say.
No,
Okay.
not at all. And I think there was a certain amount of just kind of bare knuckled bravery that we all had to embrace in running these events, because it's code and it's a tricky technological problem. What we were doing on building our own video conferencing platform. So in those early days, every fourth game went up in smoke. It was like we felt like fighter pilots kind of going like, oh, my internet went down, somebody jump in there and take it over. And it was just chaos. And we were blessed to have like some really great clients. A lot of our clients are like tech companies who are very forgiving, and they, something crashes and they see an error code and they all go, oh, cool, it broke, errors.
Yeah, yeah.
So
We can dig
everyone,
in.
yeah, we were all kind of in it together. It was a pretty special time in a lot of ways, that first 6 months, because us trying to build this thing, our clients trying to bring some unity to their teams as well.
Yeah.
It
But was
was
there an example on the other end? It's great that Google and LinkedIn and Spotify and Amazon, companies like this who are digitally minded. But was there I guess what I would call a legacy company, somebody who wasn't as tech savvy, saying we've got to figure out a remote work staff because this is not how we've worked.
Yeah. We've a bunch of clients like Pepsi, insurance companies, who were face-to-face banks, and they were a little harder to work with because they often have more controls on folks' computers. So we learned a lot about how to turn off your VPN and how to white label our URL and how to like even get people in China playing, which was sort of the holy grail, which is still really, really difficult. But yeah, there were some technological challenges with companies like that, but cultural too. They were not used to working like this. People adapted pretty quickly. I think probably the most untech savvy group was, I'm good friends with I think at the time was my seventh grade daughter's teacher, and she said, "Hey, we're doing our fun day. Can we use your platform?" And I said, "Sure, yeah, we'll run you a game." And I'd even forgotten that we were hosting that game. But my daughter in the afternoon ran out to the van and she goes, Dad, it was so fun." And I was like, "What? What are you talking about? What was so fun?" She's like, "The game we played WEVE at school." And I was like, "Oh, great! Oh, who was your host? Was it good?" She said, "No, really, it was so good." She's like, "There were kids who would never turn their cameras on, and actually in WEVE you can't turn your camera off." So she's like, "I didn't even know what they looked like, and I finally saw them, and they were laughing and smiling." And anyway, the teacher sent a great note that it was a really big hit, and we did a bunch for the school after that. But they're probably not the best example of, the district is not super tech savvy, but the kids are, they're almost like my tech support at home.
I love that.
So
That's a great
they
story.
take to it.
But you're
Yeah.
underscoring something, this culture building, and I guess it's easy to say, and we always throw this like company culture out there, but it's harder than it looks. And you've described it's not only literal cultures like countries and time zones and,
Mm-hmm.
backgrounds, but I mean, to build the culture, the soul of the company, how do the games help bring those together? You described a couple of examples, but I'd love to hear more.
Yeah, I'd say, one of our principles is creating like a container for people to try and possibly fail in humorous ways. So that's really one of the bulwarks of creating a culture, is to really engage, like get your camera on and like get your digital pen and contribute to the telestrations exercise or the Pictionary thing, and buzz in because you think you know the answer, only to be totally wrong and get a little
Just
teased
go for it.
by the host. And so really quickly, I think in our games, people realize like, oh, this is like a safe space, to do that stuff. And then I'd say also like just committing to doing them. And I know people got, it's hard to be on the screen and all the time. And we all tried a million different happy hours and playing, Settlers of Catan online with each other. So what we're seeing now is companies doing subscriptions. So they'll do like a monthly game, and it's just an hour, and an hour a month. It's really important, and it's just takes some discipline. So we've built a whole kind of a scheduling software. We call it the Event Manager Dashboard, where you can put your dates on the calendar, and and then our challenge is like make something good enough that people actually want to come. And that's really, I think that's sort of the secret sauce, is like it's got to be really, really worth their time. And people are really, really different. So our games are purposely built to sort of engage the analytical quiet person, to engage the ham who like totally wants to show their new dance moves, or grab their pet lizard and show all those things. So we really try to build the games so they're not all one-dimensional, and whether it's like, oh, you've got to be creative, it's like that'll be part of it, but like if you're really nerdy and like math, like you're going to get to be the hero at some point for your team. And then also some other things like where we have it purposely like this, we call it the scribe, or sort of the leader, the person that submits the answer, changes with every little module. So you don't have like the bossy person grab the mic and hog it and
the whole thing.
Yeah, and other people can just like sit in the background and read their emails. It dings you and it's like you're up. And so it kind of keeps you on your toes, and you can't really space out too much.
I love hearing the stories behind this and sort of the reasons why some of these things are built in. Well, Ian, before we look to the future, I want to make sure that people know how to connect with you and find out about the GoGames and WEVE and learn more about your work. How can we find you?
Yeah, on the internet probably is the best place. For in real life events and hybrid events, we are sending people to thegogame.com. And then for the remote events, it's weave.co. And then there's in between those two are something we're working really hard on right now, which are these hybrid events with where you've got folks who are, you've got 80 folks in the conference room at the meeting, and then you've got 30 people who are all conferencing in. And how do you bring them in a way that they don't feel like little tiny squares on the TV that just want to eat the bagels that are being offered and not getting the jokes that are being said across the table. So that's kind of our next challenge.
Yeah. Well, fantastic. Well, let's think ahead, not just the technology, but the company and your business strategy. Where do you see your creative approach going from here, Ian?
I would say I think we're pretty excited about two things. One being expanding our library of experiences that people can choose, whether, you could choose a game about trivia or a game about innovation. And we're actually in development of a game with Jad Aboomrad, who started Radiolab. And that's going to be an experience around leadership. And then, so we want to get some more experiences with some subject matter experts, just beyond the fun. I feel like we're the fun experts, and then there are a lot more subjects that we can tackle using this platform, almost like a book club meets a podcast that's facilitated by a subject matter expert. That's one of the areas. And then secondly, I mentioned before, really figuring out these hybrid events for teams that are a mix. And I'd say like our approach is to just try it and know that like the first one is going to be probably kind of clunky and not perfect. And you kind of have to just like smile your way through it. We just ran an event last week where there were folks all these leaders I think they were at the Ritz-Carlton in Half Moon Bay, and then the other half were around the world. And we were showing all the photos and videos, and the host's video, you could only see half their face, which we didn't know what the bug was, and we were like, we'll fix it on the fly. And then the host obviously like can see 80 people sitting in a conference room and see the other 80 people on the screen, and she just went for it, and it was hysterical and super funny. And they're kind of like improvisers by trade, and you wouldn't even known that that wasn't how it was supposed to be. And we got really good feedback. And so I think there's a little bit of that kind of fighter pilot bravery. You got to just go in and you're flying the plane with half your face, and you got to land it.
Yeah, I love that. Well, all the best to you and the company and your whole team as you're moving forward here. Likewise, it sounds like Mark. A lot of fun, and why wouldn't it be? I was noting that with a name like GoGame, there better be some fun in the company, right?
Yep.
I love it. Well, thanks for coming on the show. My guest has been Ian Fraser. His company is GoGame and WEVE. So good to have you. Come back again next time. We're going to continue our around the world travels. We're talking to creative practitioners about how they get inspired and how they organize their ideas, and most of all, how they gain the confidence and the connections to launch their work out into the world. And as we've heard today, it takes teamwork, it takes creativity, it takes some subject matter expert. We've heard that it's built on a solid platform, but then we add a little fun and it really takes off. Thanks again, Ian. And listeners, I'm Mark Stinson, and come back for Unlocking Your World of Creativity. We'll see you soon.
Unlocking Your World of Creativity with best-selling author and brand innovator, Mark Stinson. This program was produced by BSB Media, creators of IntelliKey Leadership Stories, Unlocking Your World of Creativity, and thepeaceroom.love. We've created a special offer just for listeners of the podcast. You can get the book, A World of Creativity, for a special price of $5.98 for paperback, and the Kindle version is only 99 cents. Go to mark-stinson.com to take advantage of this special offer.